I always cut to the chase now and say, I am the oldest woman on television not baking cakes. It's a very competitive world, the oldie TV people, and it can get quite ugly when we're together, 2 or 3 of us together. It's like the first 10 minutes of Saving Private Ryan. I was at Cheltenham Festival and with Mary Beard, and she went on first and she said, "This is what 63 looks like when you haven't had any work done." So I went on, and I had to, didn't I? This is what 73 looks like when you have had work done. I can't believe there are so few men. I thought we were going to teach men some lessons tonight, but they're all smiling. Okay, good. I'm shocked about that pay gap of more than 50%. Anyway, one of the things I've learned in television is that you can't be everybody's cup of tea. And you have to take the blows when they come. The year before last, Emma, my daughter, who's in the front row, she's quite tricky at times, she wanted for my small shouty grandsons an English setter. And I don't know if you know, but it's a dying breed. And I got the job of tracking down a puppy. And there were only 2 litters in the country. One all spoken for, and the other one in Derbyshire, I knew he had one left on the back burner, and he'd refused me. I emailed him. And in the end, in despair, I had to pull out my rather feeble ace card. And I said, "Please, please, can you help an aging former TV host quizzes to be happy?" And he relented, and we went up there. And when we got there, he said, "You know, it's amazing." He said, "I got all those emails from you, and there were a lot." And I said to my wife, "This poor lady, she's got the same name as that horrible woman on television." It is only a television persona, honestly. My floor manager, Dave, who's from Birmingham, that's not his fault, is it? He's always telling people that I'm calm, predictable, and universally loved. Okay? But he also thinks that Jeremy Clarkson is gay. Anyway, a tiny bit about my background. I'm from an Irish family in Liverpool, and my great-grandmother, I think, came over with the potato famine. And when it was my mother's turn before the war, she inherited the market stall that her grandmother had had and her mother had had, selling chickens in the cellars below St. John's Market in Liverpool. And she was quite canny, and she turned it into this huge, massive wholesale business. So we were supplying restaurants, ships, trains, everywhere. And she was very determined that we learnt where the boarding school fees came from. And during the holidays, we had to work half the holidays on the market stall. And it was very, very cold, but you weren't allowed to say so. And in the summer, we did 2 weeks on the market stall, and then we went for 6 weeks to the Carlton Hotel in Cannes. And she was a bit larger than life. I mean, she was beautiful and tall and very determined. And this business, you know, it was a real trading household. And I think till I was about 13, I thought my name was Hurry Up. We had to do everything incredibly quickly. And the one thing, you know, she was up at 5 in the morning. She didn't mind how hard she worked because she thought there were 2 things she could get. Are you reading your phone when I'm talking? I'll have lots of selfies later. What are you laughing at? Anyway, the thing was, she thought that it gave her the opportunity to give her children a good education. And secondly, it allowed her about 2 or 3 times a year to come to London and empty Harvey Nichols and Bond Street. And because she had an uncrushable belief that dressing to kill was 75% of giving women confidence. And, I'm so glad I'm with all these women tonight, because I can tell you, I can admit that if I'm asked to speak, the thing that really, really worries me is what I've got to wear rather than what I've got to say. And I think it's, you just need the wind in the right direction, don't you, whatever it is. I'll just go through the outfit, and the men will sit quietly. Right. This is sakaya. That's Japanese. You get it at Dover Street Market. That's Marnie, which I got quite cheap in Vista Village. These staff shoes are Miu Miu. I know. And I'm just coming to the glasses. The glasses are from a small outfit in Ile-sur-Sorgue in France. And I can almost pull in these glasses. When I was getting married for the first time, my mother said to me, I've got two... You don't know you're doing badly until you've done badly, and then you do it better the next time. Anyway, she said to me, I've got 2 pieces of advice for you. Have a facial once a month and get plenty of help in the house. And I was only earning 30 quid a week, so that didn't seem very practical. But I realised over time, and this is what I desperately want women to do, is to look after themselves, to be selfish. Can I say that selfish women have nice nails? Unselfish women are always tired. You have to go home and be useless. Really, I've had my fun today. Right, got that. I once interviewed Faye Weldon, the author, and she's very keen on therapy, and I said to her, what have you gained from having therapy? And she said, it has lifted my self-imposed limits. And that, if you think about that, it is women saying, I can't wear that dress, that's not me. I can't go to that. I won't look good in that. I can't do my hair. Why? Why? You can. That's the whole point. And it really worries me that I think my generation managed to crash the glass ceiling a bit. And now, and I'm puzzled why, we've developed young women who have a sort of fragility and timidity that I don't think we had. I think most women, young women, would rather have a bikini wax in Piccadilly Circus than talk money. Everybody hates money. And, coming up in a trading household, money was the most important subject every day. Money was power, money was fun. You must never be embarrassed talking about it. You must enjoy as much as you can. You must ask for more. And it's not very British. It's probably quite Irish, but it's not very British. And we need to change that. We really need to change it. I went on, well, I didn't go on, I followed the march on Sunday. I was filming it for a new programme I'm doing, a documentary. It's only an hour, which is a pity because it's called What Do Women Really Want? And what interested me was that on the entire walk, lovely women, all sorts of political parties, but when I said, what have you done in the workplace to make sure you're getting paid the same as your male colleagues? They said, I hadn't thought about that. What are you doing if a male colleague treats you inappropriately? And I said, I don't want to lose my job. And honestly, it's all about taking a risk. It has to be about, marching is fine. I did slightly think by the end, on Saturday they go to yoga, on Sunday they march. And it's great sisterly solidarity, but it's not enough. We've got to take it into the workplace and somehow stop everyone feeling that, the workplace is full of treachery. It is for everybody. And I wonder really if, on money, for example, middle class don't like talking about money. I have a house in the Cotswolds, and it's full of toffs with corduroy raspberry trousers. And you sit next to one at dinner, and he says to me, "Where do you live in London?" And I say, "Would it be quicker if I just told you how much money I've got?" Because that's what it's about, isn't it? Actually working out, is he better than me, am I better than him? We've got to stop that sort of attitude to not actually discussing money and being comfortable with money. And what I find is clever women with wonderful degrees, but not much grasp of how to be quick and cunning, actually. And that's, alongside, I want to give classes to everybody to say, be tough. You've got to just be a warrior in Jimmy Choos. That's all I'm asking. You don't have to kick men in the balls. You just have to present an attitude which says, "Don't mess with me." And it's quite easy to do, to be just a teeny weeny bit menacing. And that's, I think it's very important. I don't know how often I hear male bosses say that they say to a young employee, male, "I want to promote you," and he says, "Bring it on!" And then they say to a female employee, "I'd like to promote you," and she says, "Oh, could we wait a year till I'm absolutely sure?" And that's somebody wanting to be careful and cautious, and we can't afford to be careful and cautious anymore. My ma used to say, there are no victims, there's only volunteers. And there's a great story about George Orwell, who went to the Northeast in the times of the terrible Depression, and he found a woman living with her 5 children in a damp basement with no running water, nothing. And he said to her, "How long have you been living like this?" And she said, "Oh, ever since they told us about it." In other words, before then, and before people said to her, "This is terrible, you mustn't be living here," she just got on with it. And there was a bit of that about us in the 60s. My first newspaper job was on the Daily Mail, and it was so long ago, it was hot metal and typewriters. And when you'd written your story, you pulled it out of your machine, and you walked it over to the back bench of men, sub-editors with the chief sub-editor, and you walked over in your miniskirt, because it was the 60s, and the chief sub would take it off you, hold it up there, and then drop it. And then all the male bench would readjust their seats so they could see your knickers as you went down to bend down and get it up. And I tell you what, I didn't really bother me. I thought it was a bit sad. What bothered me was that story good enough? Was my journalism improving? No one said to me I must get upset about that. Now, of course I should have got upset, but I didn't know, so I kept going about me and thinking that the sooner I get up the ladder, the less I'll have to deal with that crap. That's all what I thought, and I think sometimes we have to, concentrate on that. When I joined the Sunday Times, there was no maternity leave. You couldn't go to the office in trousers. You could get the pill only if you were married. Life was very, very different. And most importantly, I think I joined the Sunday Times in 1968. The Equality Pay Act came in 1970. What's taken so long? Why can HR departments still fudge it? When we ask, am I on equal? This is an expression when you're negotiating a deal in television, and several people are, say, going to be on a game show, and your agent says to the BBC, is this favoured nations? And favoured nations means that everyone's being paid the same. We need to get on to this, don't we? I interviewed a woman from payroll, and she said, you'd want to go home and lie down if you saw what I see every day about the inequality of pay. And it can't go on any longer. The marching, Harvey Weinstein isn't going to look up and say, I need to behave better. We have to make it really, really inconvenient for women to be regarded as second-class citizens. When I finally got a bit up the ladder of journalism, I became number 2 on the Daily Mirror at the time when it was a very, very good working-class newspaper. It did a great job. And as that, I managed to edit the paper twice a week at night, but it was all my paper on a Sunday. I created it from start to finish. And I was totally inexperienced. I hadn't the foggiest idea what I was doing, but I got the job, and this is what it included. And it really taught me a lot about taking risks, actually, because it was during the Falklands War, which 3/4 of you will not even remember, but the night editor would come in, and I didn't know the name, I didn't know any production at all. I didn't know any of the names of the type that we were to use, and I had to keep looking at him in the eye and saying, I want that matchsticky type on that headline there, because I didn't know the real name of it. And the other thing that happened, because I was in this position, it was great for television programs to have a bit of crumpet in a panel like Question Time. And the first time I was on Question Time, I don't think I said much more than hello and good evening and good night. And it's customary still with Question Time that they send you a letter afterwards thanking you and highlighting the best bit of your performance. And my letter said, Dear Miss Robinson, thank you so much for coming to the Greenwood Theatre last Thursday. We all thought your green jumper looked very nice with your red. I'm very fond now of Nancy Reagan since I heard this story about her. She was, when Ronnie was president, she was hosting a diplomatic dinner, and she had the French ambassador next to her, and he said very politely, Mrs. Reagan, I wonder if you would give me your views on Red China. And she said, Red China? Yeah, never, never, never with a yellow tablecloth. So, I think we have to be who we are. I think it doesn't matter if we don't know the answer. I do. I don't want to go on too long, except to say that I ended up in 2000. I got a fax, or my then husband, then manager, got a fax, and he came into the kitchen waving it. And he said, the BBC want you to do some bloody quiz show. I'll tell them you're too busy. And I said, let's take the meeting. And we went into rehearsal. It was for 12 contestants. The money went down. It was for a holiday. And we started rehearsing. And finally, we got into a rehearsal room, some real contestants. And I tell you, we should just send them to Afghanistan and it would all be over. They are fiercely, fiercely competitive. And in the middle of it, I said to Malcolm with the Jesus sandals, why are you voting off Janet? And they've got cardboard, it's not an institute. And he says, I'm voting off Janet because anyone who doesn't know the name of the Teletubbies shouldn't be here. And I thought, great, I can be myself. I don't have to be. And the letter had said to us, it's a new programme, and we're asking Anne because she looks as if she'll know the answers to the questions, and she can ease the disappointment of the person who's walking off on the walk of shame. And that's how it developed. I'm pleased to say I got a stake, and we sold it because I'd created the character, and we sold it to 62 countries. I did it I commuted from Los Angeles and here because I was doing it both sides. And I got lucky, and I think you have to allow for a bit of serendipity, don't you? You do if you come from Liverpool. We always allow for that. By the way, I don't know how long I've taken, but I was meant to speak for 30 minutes, but I am from Liverpool, where you're told, say what you've got to say, and then stop. So I'm going to stop now. I passionately believe in Dress for Success. What The Weakest Link allowed me to do, because it was still at a time when NBC and the BBC took a great deal of interest and regarded as very important what they call shiny floor shows. So I'd moved from serious journalism to shiny floor. So much so that I was asked to do a Christmas panto in the Isle of Wight. Panto's not well paid. Anyway, the thing was they thought the budget, the clothes budget, should be limitless. And finally, a lot later than my mother found out, I was able to go to Harvey Nicks and Bond Street and empty. And I do hope I'll be able to pass on what I emptied onto Dress for Success, because just think, disadvantaged women, you know, through no fault of their own, and suddenly we are able to empower them. How important is that? I mean, it's vital. Thank you for listening.